What is going on, everybody? Hope everybody is enjoying their week. If you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Black Alpino, the Apple Guy, and today I thought I would do something different. Actually, this is something that I probably should have done a while back ago, but I thought I would do it now since it's being the new year and it's being my first New Year's video. I thought I would do a kind of camera update, basically just kind of showing what cameras I have now as opposed to what I had in the previous that I had in the previous year, and pretty much what I've had in the past. So I'm gonna actually start off kind of backwards-ish on how I'm doing this, so just kind of keep that in mind when I'm talking about this. So I actually started my first YouTube video with just a simple iPhone. So I'm actually recording on an iPhone right now. This is actually my iPhone 10 that I'm shooting on, and I'm shooting this in 4K at 24 frames a second. But when I actually first started my first YouTube video, it was actually with an iPhone. I think I had the iPhone 5 or the 3. It was one of the two, but I actually did my first YouTube video with that. And with that in mind, I kind of really wasn't really sure what YouTube was at the time, other than that obviously you can upload videos, people would watch them, and if they liked them, you just would kind of randomly upload more videos. And so I kind of liked that. So I kind of progressed down the line of just kind of using iPhones. I believe I also had a camcorder that I tried at one time, which I think I only had for a couple of weeks, and I got rid of it. And then I was introduced into the GoPro lineup, which is what really kind of started off my career in terms of just starting me off on the YouTube path. And my first GoPro was, I believe, the Hero 3. And it's actually a video that I actually made. I believe it was my first YouTube video that I made, and it wasn't with the Hero 3. It was actually, I believe, with the Hero 5. I believe it was a while back ago, but it was actually a video that I actually found of me actually doing my first actual YouTube video with a GoPro, and I'll have a link in the description for that one if you just want to kind of take a look at that video. But I actually used GoPros throughout my kind of YouTube career or YouTube video channel. So I started off with the Hero 3, as I mentioned before, and then went from the Hero 3 to the, I believe, the 5, and then from the 5 I went to the Hero Session 5, which is basically the Hero Session, but in the 4K versus the 1080 version. And then I went from the Hero 5 Session to the Hero 6, and then from the Hero 6 I went to the 7, and then I actually didn't follow along the lines of going from the 7 to the 8. I actually went from the 7 to the 9, which is what I have here. So I still do shoot videos with GoPros. I think that they're the best bang for the buck in terms of just what they are, what they're capable of doing. It's basically like a camcorder. That's an action camera that you can literally just stick in your pocket, take it out, press the record button, get some amazing footage, get some really good pictures, upload it to social media without even having to edit it, or even if you need to edit it, it's simple, easy. You can do it all from the GoPro app itself, and bam. And the reason why I went from the 7 to the 9 and not from the 7 to the 8 is there really wasn't much of a difference between the 7 and the 8 in terms of just body style. They were both 4K capable devices. Both had, I believe, 30 frames a second and 24 frames a second. They both had these hyper smooth stability, which is basically just kind of like an IBIS for a GoPro. The only minor differences between the two was the fact that my GoPro Hero 7 at the time didn't have this, which basically just means it's a built-in cage, as opposed to if you bought in GoPros before, you know that when you get the GoPro just by itself, you have to actually insert it into a cage, and then you attach the accessories to the cage, and then if you want to take the GoPro out, you simply just pull the GoPro out, put the the frame somewhere else. Well, with the introduction of the 8 and the 9, you now have the ability to not need the frame. You simply it's all built in, and then you can do that on its own. But what I loved about the Hero 9 was the fact that it was actually capable of shooting at 5K at 30 frames a second. So when I shoot all my videos, whether it's on a GoPro or my cameras or even on my iPhone, I prefer to shoot everything at 4K, and then I render it down to 1080 as opposed to shooting everything at 1080, because I just don't particularly like doing that. So another thing that drew me to the Hero 9 was the fact that you now have the front-facing LCD screen. So again, if you're familiar with all the previous GoPro lineups, you know that this front screen pretty much just gives you, only information it gives you was the amount of time that it was taken when you're recording, how much information you had or how much storage you had left on your SD card, and what frame and what video resolution that your GoPro was shooting in. With the new LCD screen, it literally shows you exactly what it's looking at from the front camera. So if you're not sure if you're in frame or with this LCD screen, it actually does kind of show, it will actually show you if you're in frame, and then whenever you're ready to do your video, you simply just tap on the record button, as well as it still has the new hyper smooth stability, so it has hyper smooth 3.0, which gives it even more of a hyper smooth ability, gives it more of a kind of smooth video transition. And it also introduces, I believe, night lapse or night mode, which I really haven't really done myself. It still does do the time lapse, and it has the time warp, which is actually a pretty cool function. And I have done numerous amounts of GoPro videos and comparisons between certain GoPros that I've had, and I will probably stick with GoPros for practically ever, since I've had a lot of different versions of them. So the accessories that you get from your previous GoPros will work with this GoPro, with the exception of the batteries. This being the 5K version, the battery's gonna be a little bit taller, a little bit bigger, so with that you can't really use a GoPro, say Hero 8 battery or Hero 7, as they won't work with this. So keep that in mind when you are transitioning, or if you're looking to get a Hero 9, just make sure that if you have a previous GoPro or you're looking to add another GoPro to your lineup, that with the 5 you cannot use the other batteries from the 7 or the 8 or any other GoPro battery with this. And also the charger that goes with both the 7 and the 8, when you use that to charge, will not charge this. You actually have to buy a separate charger for this. Now there may be a universal charger out there that allows you to charge both the 8 batteries and the 7 with the 9, but that's what you're looking at having to do if you want to upgrade to the Hero 9, or looking to add it to your collection of GoPros, is that you'll have to buy a separate charger for this. So these are my main cameras. So I actually had two of them at one time. I had the G7, and then this is my current one, the G85. Now that was my first actual camera with interchangeable lenses, was the G7. I actually made numerous videos on it, being the best bang for the buck camera, and I still think that it's the best bang for the buck camera compared to other cameras of similar specs that are $100 more, $200 more. And again, the reason why I went with the G7 was the fact that it had the ability to do a flip out, as well as an articulating screen that was also touch. Now the closest camera that you could get to this that had that capability, I believe, was the Canon M50 came out a couple of years after, it came out a year after that or so. Again, it was just like the Panasonic G7. It had the articulated screen and all that, but it did not, I believe, did not have 4K capabilities, whereas the G7 did. Now again, it didn't have the IBIS or the in-body stabilization, so when it came to doing any type of vloggings or anything like that, simply doing handheld, you still would get a little bit of a shaky footage when it came to kind of doing any type of vloggings. So you could actually kind of correct that by just simply buying a Joby or a Joby tripod, mounting it on, and then just simply just holding the tripod up, and then literally just like that. And I had that for about 2 years, and I love the Panasonic lineup so much that I actually went and bought another one, which brought me to this one, which is the G85. Now there is a difference between the two in terms of just spec wise. Again, this does 4K just like my G7, has the same flip out screen that's touch just like the 7, with the differences being that this is a weather sealed machine and the G7 is not. So literally I could take this out in the middle of the winter if it's windy, or in the summertime when it's windy, and not have to worry about having to kind of get a lot of gunk inside the machine. And it's really simple to clean out. And when it came to swapping out the batteries and inserting the SD card on my G7, you only had one way of doing both. You only had, on the G7, you had both the memory card and the battery at the bottom, whereas on the G85, as you can see, that's just the battery. And then when it came to actually swapping out the memory card, again, it's on the side. So it's really simple to swap out the memory card on your G85 by simply just taking out one, putting it in, closing it up while it's still on the tripod. Whereas with the G7, if you had it mounted on a tripod, obviously you can just use a quick release, simply just pull out the battery, push it in, put the other memory card in, and then you're good to go. But I kind of it's not like I grew tired of the G7, but I just wanted something different. And again, that's why I went with the G7. It's an easy camera to use. This, I believe, was around $700 with the kit lens, which was a 12 to 60 millimeter kit lens that came with this. And again, with the G7 at around $500, I believe it came with the 14 to 20 millimeter, I believe, or 12 to 40 millimeter, one of the two. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I'll have a link in the description for that camera. But you could also not only get that camera with the kit lens, but you could also get that and a wide or a zoom type lens. I believe it was a 45 to 150 millimeter lens. You could buy an extra lens with the kit, and it was, I think, around $500 or maybe $600, which got you the camera and both the kit lens and a zoom lens with itself, which is, again, not bad. It's still the best bang for the buck camera. And again, I'll have a link in the description for that as well if you want to take a look at the video, or I do a little bit of reviewing on it as well. Now with the GD5, again, I still love this camera. It's weather sealed, and I'll probably be keeping this for quite a while longer. If I do ever upgrade, I'll probably be doing upgrading from this to the GD5 or the G5, but I don't see myself doing that just quite yet, as I still like this camera. It's got a really good grip. It's a micro four thirds lens system, so from what I understand, those are still kind of the older lens style as compared to other lenses from other manufacturers, but I can simply use those other types of lenses with a speed booster, attaching it to this, and then buying those lenses for that if I want to, or there are other third-party lenses that are micro four thirds that I can use with this camera. So this is one of my main cameras that I use for my YouTube channel. Now the next camera in my update is my Sony ZV-1. I actually bought this back in November. I did an unboxing and a review, and talked a little bit about some of the accessories that you can actually add to this camera. So again, I have links for all of this in my descriptions below. I'll have the playlist for this in the cards up in the corner. But the reason why I decided to choose the Sony ZV-1 over the Canon M50, which was the next other alternative I was looking to this one, was the fact that I didn't really want something, again, that was kind of big and bulky. And although technically the M50 isn't as big, but it's about equivalent to the size of the G7, which is something I didn't want. So this was actually my replacement to my G7. Again, it's small and compact, and I can stick it in my pocket. And another reason why I liked this camera was the fact that it has the swivel out screen. Now the only other camera in the Sony lineup that even has that capability is the Sony A7C, which is also about a $2,000 camera, and I believe that's either with or without the lens. This is just, well, at the time when I bought this with a creator kit, which came with this, the camera included. Now the reason why I replaced the G7 with the Sony ZV-1 is a small compact point and shoot that does 4K. I don't have to worry about buying a bunch of lenses for that camera. It's just simply all in one. This is a f1.8 to f2.8 aperture, so basically it's just a perfect vlogging camera for those looking to kind of get into the Sony lineup. I did a review on this, as well as talked about a little bit of the accessories that I had for this camera, which I have in the link below. It's the perfect camera. It's not a super expensive in terms of just what it has compared to other cameras in the price category. Again, it has a flip out screen. It does have a cold shoot that allows you to, again, add an external mic if you wanted to. You don't have to worry about replacing the lens, as everything is literally right there. It's the perfect size to fit into your pocket, and it has all of the things that you would need to want to add any type of external devices to it. So you have your little settings, you have your three little you have your three inputs here, you have your mic setting there, you have your multi-in, which is what you would use for basically charging the phone, for charging the camera via USB, and it does have an HDMI setting, an HDMI input as well. So when you're looking to want to use the camera for like live streaming for Twitch or for Zoom, you simply can just buy what's known as a micro HDMI to HDMI, and then you simply just plug it into like an Elgato Cam Link, and then you can do it that way, or plug this into the available HDMI slot on either your PC or your laptop. You simply just download the software for this, and you got yourself the perfect web camera. Again, it's small. You can stick it on a tripod, or if you bought the creator's kit, which comes with the camera and the tripod, you can do that as well. But in terms of just price-wise, again, when I bought this with the creator's kit, which is I believe around $750. Now the camera's I believe on sale for like $6.99 on Best Buy, or again you can still buy the creator's kit, but it will set you back at around $800 to $900, give or take how you buy it. But again, in terms of just what it is and what it can do, it's the perfect camera for me. So say I'm going on vacation and I want to bring all my cameras, but I want to do some quick videos or some quick vlogs. This in my pocket, pull it out, flip it out, hit record, and voila, it's done. Now my next camera, this is my newest addition to my camera lineup. I bought another Sony, this being the Sony a6400. Now I've only had the camera for about 2 weeks, so I really haven't had a chance to kind of use it in terms of any type of vlogs or any pictures, at least not yet. I actually bought the body of this, which was $8.99, and then I bought a Sony f2.8 16mm lens, which again, in terms of vlogging on it, that paired with this is actually not a bad deal. Again, the camera and the lens pairs perfect. The reason why I like this one as opposed to all the other Alpha lineups in terms of A6300, A6500, or the 6000 was that the ability for me to again take the screen and I can still flip it up, still get myself in the video. And obviously with the hot shoot right there, if I mount a hot shoot if I mount a mic right there, obviously the screen does tend to get in the way of it. But you can buy what's known as a small rig cage that you can simply just attach to this. Gives you the hot shoe mount on the side. You can mount your microphone on the side and still use this with the screen up. Every one of these has a no record limit. So with the exception of the G7, on my Alpha A64, I have a no record limit. So I can record till either the battery dies or I can record until the SD card is filled. I can do this not only on my A6400, but on my Sony ZV-1 and on my G85, as well as on my GoPro. So I'm not limited by having to worry about, am I going to run out of space, or is this video going to cut off at the 30-minute mark? Am I going to have to cut up my videos? With the ability for me to do that on the A6400, you can't really do that on the 6500, you can't do that on the 63 or the 6100. The only difference between the 64 and the 65 is that the 6500 does have the IBIS, which is again in-body stabilization, whereas the A6400 does not. Again, it depends on how you're using the camera and does it really matter. It does have steady shot, so in a way that's kind of like a IBIS, but it's kind of like I guess in a way of cheating, so to say. But again, if you're having this like kind of on a tripod or have it mounted on a on something, then it really doesn't really matter because it's just sitting in a stationary spot. But again, if you're taking it out and you want to do a vlogging and you want to kind of stick it out with a vlogging like this, you can simply just attach a tripod to this, and then that kind of relieves that when it comes to that. So that is everything for my camera updates right now. And again, like I said, this is the first time I've actually thought about doing this, as usually when I buy a new camera, I simply just do an unboxing, talk a little bit about it, and then wait till I get my next camera. But I figured this is the first time I've actually done this, so I figured I would do this. So again, I have a link in the description for everything that I have here, and that is everything for my lineup of new cameras. And again, I'll be doing one more video on the Sony ZV-1. This one will be my likes and dislikes about it, as well as I'll be doing a review on the A6400, and I'll be talking a little bit more in depth about why I love that A6400, why I chose it over the 6500. And then I also have some tips that I'll be having coming up about how you can maximize the stabilization on the ZV-1 as well as on the A6400. So again, stay tuned for that video. And that is everything. So again, if this is your first time here, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. If this video is helpful, give me a thumbs up. And feel free to browse my channel. Again, I'll have a link in the description for all those other accessories and other videos that I have. And that is everything. So again, I'm Black Pino the Apple Guy. I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.